Well, welcome to Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp, brought to you in part by Reese's Barkery. Reese's Barkery in Pawtucket, downtown McHenry, Illinois, on Riverside Drive, 1313 Riverside Drive, as a matter of fact. Reese'sBarkery.com, 847-363-7297. And today, Mary is talking about a hot mess. Good morning, Mary. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I'm super tired.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot, but this is essentially, I guess, what you would call my busy season. Good morning, Dad. Good morning, Nora. Because I do a lot of events.
Yeah.
So between my car show and expo coming up at the end of August at the store, and then I volunteer and help out with a couple of the chamber things. And then I sponsor a bunch of chamber things. And if anybody follows anything I do, they see that I am helping with the farmers market in my town. So events take a lot of time.
Yeah, they do.
As somebody who firsthand is dealing with one of our largest events in the county.
Yeah. It's been Fiesta Days here in McHenry. Started last week on the 8th, and it's still going.
Yep. Every year I remember going as a kid. But that's the thing. And when I talk about a hot mess, I'm not talking about the recipe. It's a southern, you'd probably love it. It's a southern cast iron skillet recipe with kielbasa and peppers. And it's called a hot mess because it just looks like a hot mess. It looks like a bunch of crap you threw in a pan, but it tastes simply amazing. I made a recipe that turned into a hot mess. So if you follow my page, I made a blueberry ginger bread. Again, it's one of those breads that I don't know why they call it a bread, because it's not a bread. It's more of a cake, like zucchini bread or banana bread or whatever. It's like a pound cake, more or less.
Like pumpkin bread.
It turned out simply amazing. Absolutely amazing. I used fresh ginger, which normally you use ground ginger in baking.
Yeah.
So it's very ginger forward. I also used way too many blueberries. So when I went to flip it out of the pan, it turned into a hot mess. Literally steaming hot, molten blueberries. It didn't have the structural integrity to take the rest of it out of the pan. So we kind of had to scoop it all out of there. And it looked like something that would make a good, crumble. But it didn't matter because it was gone in very short order and it was absolutely amazing. But it was truly a hot mess. It was a recipe I was trying to create, and I'm going to have to redo it. But this whole week, the amount of times that I've had someone say to me that they're a hot mess, their life is a hot mess, their store is a hot mess, their whatever is a hot mess. And it got me thinking about how when my recipe goes bad or something else goes bad or something in my life turns into a hot mess, it doesn't bother me the way it used to. So the amount of the detrimental effect that stress has on your physical body and your mental wellness is insane. So when you let those hot mess, you almost made it.
Did I? I was trying.
Almost made it. But the amount that stress affects your physical and mental well-being is insane. It's absolutely insane. And it's probably one of the biggest things that affects your physical and mental health across the board. And I know that's like an impossible thing to ask people, is to not stress. That's just not going to happen.
No. Yeah.
You're either a stressful kind of person or you're not a stressful kind of person. But it's it's okay to be a hot mess. It really is. And I didn't realize that until after I was diagnosed with liver disease. And it's weird, I hate that cliche of, you have an epiphany when you almost die or when you almost get, sick or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's really true. For a lot of people, you have this moment where you put things in perspective and decide what is truly important. And being stressed out over a recipe or a job or friendships or family, you don't have to like your whole family. You didn't pick them.
No.
And if they're the stressor in your life, you might need to reevaluate that. Like, you don't have to be part of that. It's so ingrained in us that you have to like your family, and you have to, well, you don't really have to. You didn't pick your brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles. And no, I'm not saying go out and excommunicate your entire family, but same with friendships. The amount of friendships that I see, or marriages, or work relationships that are so toxic and people just continue going on with it is mind-boggling to me. But I guess, true to my form, how I always say that, perspective is king. You don't really know until you step in somebody else's shoes is why they do that.
Yeah.
But it's the key difference, I think, is knowing the difference between acute stress and chronic stress. So, for instance, recently I had to break up I shouldn't say I broke up a dog fight. I had to break up two dogs that were going to get into a fight.
Okay.
And because I know all about asshole dogs, and I know I've trained dogs, I know far too much about things like that. I was able to step in and stop this. Now, it didn't stress me out, didn't freak me out, stressed everybody else out. But that rush in adrenaline and that chemical rush affected me for days. I notice it because of who I am, because I eat different, because I'm more sensitive to things like that, because of the fact that I have, advanced liver disease, and then with the transverse myelitis, having an oversensitive nervous system doesn't help matters either. So I'm more sensitive to it. But it also made me realize, if you or anybody else could sense how much that stressor affects you physically and mentally, you'd probably change things. But because you're so used to it, you don't change it.
Yeah.
So people don't realize the difference between acute stress and chronic stress. So if you're chronically stressed and you're in that mode all the time, it's horrible on your health. Absolutely horrible on your health. I stole something from, I'm pretty sure this is from Harvard EDU. It might be from Mayo.
Okay.
But through a combination of nerve and hormonal signals, the system prompts your adrenal glands located atop your kidneys to release a surge of hormones, including adrenaline and cortisol. Cortisol also curbs functions that would be non-essential or harmful in a fight or flight situation. It alters your immune system response. It suppresses the digestive system, the reproductive system, and growth process. So having yourself in that flood of adrenaline and cortisol all the time, if your immune system and your digestive system and your reproductive system are not working properly because your body is suppressing those things because you're constantly under stress, then could you imagine if somebody just shut those systems off in your body, how suddenly depression, sleep disorders, anxiety, eating disorders, weight gain, weight loss. The key that a lot of people don't realize is when you live under chronic stress, you probably almost constantly have a headache for the same reason. If you've ever gotten a tension headache as someone who's not stressed out people get those all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And the same with sleep problems. If you look up how sleep affects your health, purely missing a day of sleep can screw you up big time. So it was just weird to me. And I'm always the one that likes to step back and think of the perspective. So we all, the most of the time we stress out because we're our own worst critic. And we worry about what other people think. I had a new boss come through my store the other day.
Yeah.
And so many people, and it makes me laugh when I think about it. Or way back before this boss, the previous boss, his office was in the back of my store.
So you're used to having him around.
Right. So It was funny because one time one of the sister stores had him there, my old boss. And he's like, yeah, I just, Kevin's here. Oh, okay. No, I mean, if he's here now, so he's probably going to leave. And since we're so close, he's going to go to your store. You're right. He's probably going to go to my store because his office is in my store.
Yeah.
So that whole threat of, corporate's coming.
Ooh.
And it's funny though, because so many people, they stress out and it's like, I do my job because I like my job.
Right.
And I know that's not the case with most people. But if you don't like your job, it's one of those other stressors that is just going to be a constant every day. You hate your life.
I've been there in the past. Yeah.
Right.
Which is, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I don't do what I did for the last 30 years.
Right.
Anymore.
I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine dealing in HR for. I don't like it the few minutes I have to deal with it as being the boss of a staff. I swear too much. I am opinionated. So to be the
you're probably an HR nightmare. But
you know the amount of times I've been asked if I could behave when I'm going to be around corporate, when they would send me out into the world.
Please behave.
And then they realize that I can actually handle myself in mixed company just fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tend to be a bit. I'm actually really close. Not really close. He's not my best friend, but one of our main HR people at corporate.
Yeah.
Has been a phenomenal support for me over the years. In the very few times that I've had issues that I had to deal with him on. But he always laughs because you can't, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. Why not?
Why not?
It's the means to the same end. We're going to get there. It does matter. You got to do it. All right, well, I'll do it this way. Stupid. And I pout like a 4-year-old.
Laws, regulation, legislation.
Right.
It's all a royal pain in the ass.
And just the thought of that makes me think of how stressed it could be. But that's why I said when you're so many times you're the reason for your stress.
Yeah.
And it's almost always a very stupid reason. For instance, you hate bananas.
Can't stand them.
So to look at somebody else and go, I can't comprehend how you would like that mushy, disgusting, gross thing. On the flip side, somebody could look at you and go, I don't understand why you have an obsession with, Hostess anything.
Because,
right. So,
because they go, oh my gosh, you got to be putting all kinds of preservatives and chemicals and everything in your
body. I don't
body.
like chocolate. How can you like chocolate? Or I don't like
or bacon.
Right.
When I come across people who don't like bacon, I think there's just something not right in your head.
But that's
them.
Right.
And I don't. Their palate has no impact on me in any way, shape, or form. Unless, of course, they were to move into my house and say, okay, well, I can't stand bacon so much that you shall never, ever cook bacon again.
Or leave
in this
bananas
house.
In the studio.
Or, leave bananas in the studio. Thank you very much, whoever did that. I had to throw away.
But that perspective, and that's usually what is our stressor, is our perspective. We all live in our own little bubble. And we're all too fat or too skinny or too loud or too chatty or too something, not enough something, not good enough. And that's our perspective. And then we always think we're wrong or too weird, or, I'm weird because I chew my fingernails or something, which I don't. And I'm one of those people who looks at someone that chews their fingernails and goes, do you have any idea how many disgusting things are underneath your fingernails? Because it's gross.
Yeah, because gross. But I like your comment on perspective, because one of the things that actually landed that for me a long time ago was a simple little lesson, and I think it was either my grandfather or my mom's dad or my dad's mom. It was a grandparent who taught it to me, and I remember that. But if you take two kids and put them each in two identical rooms filled with horse shit, and one kid goes, "Oh my God, what the hell? I'm having a horrible time. This room's filled with horse shit. Why the hell did you put me in here?" And the other kid is elated. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so happy to be in here. And you ask the first kid, why are you so miserable? Because you put me in a room here full of horse shit. It's nasty. It's gross. It smells. You ask the second kid, you're in a room full of horse shit. Why are you so excited? Well, because that means there's got to be a pony or a horse around here somewhere, and I want to ride it.
Right.
And they're excited because they look at that and go, they look past what that thing is. And so it's all 100% about perspective and how you decide to react to things.
And so when people ask why, and I mean, like I said, I've had I feel like a Lemony Snicket's movie. I have a series of unfortunate events. And it's funny to me when the most common response when someone reads about me or, finds out, and they're like, okay, so, my husband had his car accident and almost died, nursed him back to health, and got really lucky because he should be way worse. They told us he would be way worse off. They told me he was going to be 6 months in the hospital and would maybe get 50% range of motion in his knee, and at some point might have to have his leg locked. And 21 days later, he was home, and he's got like 95% range of motion in his leg.
Huh?
So right after that, as soon as he healed, like no sooner within weeks of him healing and the lawsuit being finished and we were done with that stress, I went into the hospital, was diagnosed with advanced decompensated cirrhosis of the liver. And then I fixed that and healed from that. And the next thing was my transverse myelitis. My immune system eats a hole in my spine and partially paralyzes me for the rest of my life. And everyone's like, oh my God, you have so much. I really don't. I don't. And I know I've said this before, where if you give too much weight to those stones, they will drown you.
Yeah.
And it's all about that perspective. So my perspective is that my liver is functioning and I'm not on a transplant list. And the vast majority of people who have transverse myelitis are paralyzed within 72 hours. Completely full-blown, wherever it happens from there down, you are toast, you're screwed,
toast, you're done.
You're shit, you're whatever. So I choose to see the better perspective of that, as I'm going to see the good side of it. And then there's my husband who sees the bad side of everything. Now, the surprising thing is, and I love to rub this in his face every single time I get a chance. Because if we're going to put a new door in and this is going to be horrible, it's not going to fit, our house is 100 years old, this is going to happen, it's going to be expensive, it's going to break, it's going to piss me off, it's going to this. And then 10 minutes later, the door's in, everything's great, nothing went wrong, we got a deal at Home Depot. Like every good thing that could happen happened. And I was like, so where's the bad part? Where's the unlucky horseshoe broken?
Yeah.
It went pretty good there, didn't it? And that's the perspective, is when you're looking for the bad, you're gonna find it. The world sucks. People suck. I mean, I work in retail. I mean, come on. I get yelled at on a regular basis about how horribly wrong I am, how it is my fault, how it's my crew's fault. I have one little girl that works in my store. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. She works hard. She never sits still. If she's sitting still for 2 minutes, she's asking, what can I do? What can I learn? Where can I do? Like, she's amazing. She's also quiet. So so many people come up to me and she is super rude. You probably just didn't hear her. Because based on the fact that you didn't shut up for the last 10 minutes screaming at me about how horrible she is, if you realize she's about this big and has the tiniest little voice ever, that you probably just didn't hear her ask you 19 times if you would like a bag or a receipt or whatever the heck it was that they were pissed off that she didn't ask them. And that's exactly why. Every single time, simply because she's so quiet. And that's the difference in perspective every day. But I could take that and be stressed and let work stress me or my illnesses stress me. But it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. The amount of damage that it does to your body that you don't realize, you will feel later. Arthritis, digestive issues, headaches, all of these things, not to mention the fact that you become immunocompromised. And in a world who is going through a global pandemic, supporting your immune system is probably the best thing that you can do, regardless of what anybody on the planet says. Mm. So taking perspective of what your stress is and where it is probably the best thing that you can do for yourself ever, in the history of ever. Research, do a little bit of research on how the chemical reactions of stress affect your body, affect your sleep, affect your hormones, your ability to have children, all the regulatory systems in your body. And it's amazing that, the amount of people who purely have heart disease, liver disease, kidney disease, diabetes, and obesity purely because they're stressed. So I was reading about a study, because I'm a queen of, placebo effect and mind over matter. And there was a study they did where everybody knows the placebo effect of, we're going to give you a real pill, we're going to give him a sugar pill, and we're going to give this guy no pill. Yeah. So that's the theory of, if it doesn't work, it works kind of thing. So the placebo, in theory, only works when you don't know about it. So what if you know about it? So they did a study of women who either thought they were active or didn't think they were active, their perception of how active they were. So for instance, I work in retail. I walk 15 to 20,000 steps a day, and I consider myself fairly active. But if your perspective is, this is my job, I'm not active. I don't work out. I don't run. I don't lift weights. I'm not active. So I go to work every day. Your perspective might be that you're not very active because you don't see as walking around your store helping customers as being active.
Oh, it's active.
Right.
I can tell you it's active, right, because I sit. I'm a professional sitter. Almost everything I do involves sitting. Right. Until we came upon Fiesta days.
And you had to run around a hot field in 97% humidity for 15 hours.
Yeah. 15, 16 hours. And let me tell you, my hips, my knees, and my ankles are still on fire. And I've had 4 days 3 days and a little bit to recover. But now we've got more stuff going on this evening, and then Saturday and Sunday. And so, yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, so of these women, what the study had concluded with is that when they were informed about what it is to be active and what you need, to lose weight or whatever, be a little bit healthier, a majority of the time, just purely having that knowledge essentially caused that placebo effect, and they lost weight, their blood pressure dropped, and they got just a little bit healthier. So purely by, if someone told you that just the 5 minutes you get up or down or walk down the stairs or do whatever, that little bit that you're active is actually being active, just having that knowledge and that thought and that perspective will actually make you healthier. And the same with, if you think you are sick, you will think yourself into getting sick. purely the stress over getting a cold or a flu or a sinus infection. You know, some kid comes in and sneezes, and I'm not talking pandemic crap. I'm talking every day since the day we were all born. My husband's a hypochondriac. Someone's kid comes over to our house and they're sniffling, and like all kids are, and they're blowing snot everywhere like kids do, and they put their fingers in their feet and everything else in their mouth because that's what children do. And he hates being sick. He never gets sick, but he hates being sick. He turns into a big baby. And I'm like, you're gonna get ill just freaking out about
it. And see, that's with me. Anytime I feel a little bit of anything coming on, I literally tell myself, nope, you don't have time for it.
Right.
Get rid of it. And I get ill so incredibly rarely.
Right. Same with me and my husband.
Just extremely rare because I just don't have time for it. And it's just something that I don't. And I know people, oh, you can't just tell your body not to get sick. And I'm like, well, I do, and it seems to work. So there you go.
You can.
I just don't have time for
it. You really, really can. And it is that, yes, there's reasons for your body to be stressed. There is. But it's that fight or flight. It's like when I was breaking up 2 dogs this weekend. If you're not calm and collected and your body doesn't do those chemical reactions to focus things and to be able to have a burst of energy and a burst of muscular strength and the oxygen rush to your brain that deprives the other systems, because you shouldn't be digesting food at that moment when you're running from a tiger. But that stress, when you start stressing out about it and those systems are suppressed, that is when you do get sick.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I always joke that I haven't been sick since I've been sick. Like since my liver failed. I got 3 to 5% of a functioning liver. I am doing really well. I'm not on any medication. I still have an active lesion on my spine that flares up all the time. And I work in retail. So I come across a lot of lovely, lovely people all the time.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite's the cat lady that's got a big giant cat on her shirt, and she has little special custom-made things so the little paws don't get stuck in the basket that fits in the seat of the basket, and she brings her cat with her with a little bell and a little
like an actual living cat.
Living cat.
Carrying it.
And she tells us how he's a beautiful show cat. He looks like some long-haired, he's pretty, but he looks like a long-haired stray that someone found in my backyard. He's a great cat. He's nice, but he's always sitting there, and the look on this poor cat's face
is like, save me.
It's like, I made you eat a banana. It's like this poor cat. And she's just saying, oh, yeah, he's fantastic. And she's just petting him, and he's looking at it like, I just want to just die. I just want to die. I know I'm humanizing a cat, but I swear to God, if you can see, she comes in very freely.
I mean, they do get, we're back to 4 cats because our daughter brought 2 of them back home. And in fact, we now have also a rat.
See, rats make awesome pets. I have to say, they're smart, they're cuddly, they like you, they're not very dirty.
The stupid rat bit my finger.
Well, maybe you made him angry. Did you poke him?
Yeah.
You're like a kid. Did you stick your finger in the cage? Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did.
And it turned out that he was used to, or she, I think it's a she rat. It's one of those white lab rats. Yeah. It's from her college.
If it's a male rat, you know.
It's female.
It's
female.
Got big boys, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's female. But it turns out she used to get little treats that were about the size of the first knuckle of your finger and about the same color. So, but I didn't know that.
You'd bite me too if you thought I was giving you a treat.
I'm like, maybe it's like my wife's guinea pigs, and I stuck my finger in there, and it went like ninja
that's
fast.
Hilarious. That's your fault.
Yeah, it is, but still it bit my finger. So it's a stupid rat.
That's hilarious.
But it's my fault. I know, 100% my fault.
So yeah, I worked in a pet store for a very short period of time, and rats were awesome. I also did accidentally let out a cage of feeder mice.
Ew.
Once. That was fun.
I'll bet.
Yeah, that was an interesting.
But you had a lot of fun catching those.
Oh my God, it was such a pain. It was so horrible. We got most of them.
Most.
They were baby feeder mice. So, I mean, come on. It was a huge store. We were lucky that we caught 97% of it.
And for all of you out there who don't know what feeder mice are,
they're baby little white mice that you feed to your snakes.
Yeah.
Or any other creature that likes to eat meat.
Yeah.
For that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry to the baby mice, but.
Yeah. And rats are eat meters, I found out.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Catherine was looking up what to feed it.
They'll eat. They're opportunistic. They'll eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll eat.
Pretty much anything.
Yeah.
So, in fact, she actually loves what they're called the bee treats from Reese's Barkery and Patique. Reese'sBarkery.com, 847-363-7297. Supporting in part Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp. But they have these little alphabet treats, and that rat loves the bee treats. They're shaped like the letter B.
Huh.
So.
Yeah, we used to, I surprisingly enough, we used to give our dog bananas. He had stomach issues. So when we asked the vet what we could give him that wouldn't upset him, and the easiest thing was bananas or tuna.
Huh.
So it was great for his coat. He liked them. We learned that we had to freeze them because he would literally, he was a huge dog. So a mushy banana is like barely one bite. So we had to freeze it, so at least it turned it into like 3 or 4 bites.
Yeah, we had a boxer long ago who loved bananas. It's the only dog I've ever seen actually peel a banana. He would hold the stem with one paw, and with his claw he'd just scrape down until it was open, and then he would pull it apart and then eat the banana.
That's funny.
Yeah, bizarre.
So it's weird because when I choose to talk about something like stress or living with it's I know it's not recipes and necessarily low sodium, but living with a chronic disease, if I wanted something to stress about, I don't even have to think twice to think. It's there.
You've got plenty of items to choose from.
And
if you were going to do it.
There was a story I was reading because I've been researching a little bit about doing Pilates to help with the muscle issues that I have and the soreness and tightness and all that stuff, because Pilates when done properly, can be a huge help for things like that. And it's an easy exercise for a lot of people to do. So there was a lady that had the same thing that I have. And it progressed and progressed. And the doctors pretty much told her, this is your new normal, which is the same with mine. And she accepted that. So she went on more gabapentin than she should have been taking. But that's what was prescribed to her, because that's what the books say. And then some painkillers and some other things and some antidepressants. So she was on a whole boatload of pills and eventually was completely wheelchair bound, the whole 9 yards. So then she moves. So literally a decade goes by of this is her life. Muscular atrophy. She's in a wheelchair. She's crippled forever. And that's, so I can wiggle my toe a little bit, but there's nothing I can do about everything else. Whatever. I'm toast. So then she moves to another state, has to find another doctor. And that doctor went, we can do something about this. Took her off the medications, weaned her off everything, started physical therapy, and suggested Pilates for her. And this was a whole testimonial that she had written for her Pilates person, whatever, and so on and so forth. And it was just funny that because someone told her that this is how it was going to be, she just let her mind accept that is her new life.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing I've been told over and over is, this, when I told my doctor I wanted to be off my medication, and he laughed, and he wasn't trying to be mean. I mean, he's a 30-year veteran of the field. That doesn't happen. And the fact of the matter was, when I asked him and said, I'm an all or nothing kind of person. So I want you to tell me what this means. And he flat out said that there's a 50-50 shot of survival or liver transplant. So in other words, you're going to die or you're going to get a new liver probably within the next year, maybe 2.
Wow. Sue Sheehan.
Oh,
Hello,
hey, Sue.
Says yoga is outstanding for your body and mind as well.
It really is. It really is. So, but I didn't accept that. And I think part of it was attributed to a couple times when I was younger. For instance, one of my aunts was diagnosed with cancer before I was born, back when cancer was a death sentence. And her perspective was that's not an option. My uncle was overseas in the military. She had 2 small children. Like that, I don't care what you say. I'm not going to die. That's not an option. Mm. And she didn't die for another 40 years.
Wow. and when you say that, and at that point, that's just being old.
Well, she did. She was in and out of cancer, but for 40 years, that she was just, that was always, it was never an option. And then another friend of ours during high school, his dad had gotten cancer and he just gave up. Mm. He's like, well, I'm screwed. Life sucks, blah, blah, blah. My kid is screwed, and so on and so forth. And what's my wife going to do? And he took that negative path. And of course, I have no scientific evidence whatsoever to prove that he didn't have some horribly mutated alien aggressive cancer that liquefied his body. You don't know. But the fact that the perspectives on the 2 people, it has to have something to do with it. And I've seen that time and time again, where you see someone when they do give up and they do that, even though the outward appearance is that they're okay, when your mind is telling you that this is horrible and I'm going to die and I'm so sick and I'm so whatever, it makes it worse.
Yeah. And good morning, Mbamwe, all the way from Cameroon. So Mbamwe tunes in a lot. And if you're reading that, if you haven't seen that before, for them, saying good morning, daddy and mom is a sign of respect. Oh. So Mbamwe is offering a great deal of respect by saying that way. Thanks. So thank you very much.
It's hard because there's like 8 million different tangents that I can go on when I talk about how stress affects your body and your sleep. And you combine that with outside stresses. I had someone recently ask me if I noticed a difference in how I felt after I quit drinking. And that is a resounding yes, to a level that I would have never thought of happening. The way I sleep, the way I dream, my thought process. And I wasn't an alcoholic that was drinking at 6:00 every morning until I passed out and then waking up at 2 a.m. to find my beer or whatever, and then drinking as soon as I woke up. We drank, we don't have kids, whatever. We drink a lot. So it's not much different than most people who are young and didn't have kids. Mm. But quitting drinking entirely, I can't even express it, and you can't understand it unless you do it yourself. It's one of those other things that opened my eyes to how much what we consume and what we do affects our body. And it doesn't just have to be alcohol. Like sugar, for instance. It took me a while because I love ice cream. I really love ice cream. For those of you that don't know, I have an obsession with ice cream, especially frozen custard. But if I eat it, and it's not just ice cream, if I have a high amount of sugar later in the afternoon, because sugar is inflammatory, it affects the nerves in my spine and it ruins my night. If you if you're lying in bed and all of a sudden your entire lower half starts to feel like it's becoming paralyzed, it's terrifying. Even for somebody like me who's had that happen every single night for the last 2 years, it's still terrifying. And it's very, very hard to not get in your own head and freak yourself out.
I would
and
imagine.
End up in the ER every single night. If it wasn't for the fact that I had so many doctors tell me that they didn't know what I had and that there was nothing they could do but put me on nerve blockers, that's the only reason that kept me from going back to the ER for 6 months after it happened. Because every single night you lay there, and depending on what's pushing on where, because nerves are a funny, funny thing, it was literally like, this is it. I'm gonna fall asleep in a couple hours because I'm gonna be so tired I can't not fall asleep, and then I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be paralyzed. I'm gonna be in a wheelchair. This is it. It's gonna be horrible. And that if it wasn't for that mind over matter, I would have a much, much more difficult time of things than I do.
Sue says, people ask me all the time if Mitch Sheehan lived longer because of switching to low sodium. And yes, and then they'll ask if I'll continue it, and she resoundingly says yes. So.
Yeah. Mitch and Sue were two of the first people that I met, not physically met in person. Sue and I will meet at some point. I guarantee that. But they were a huge support for me when I first got diagnosed. Sue and I are both admins in a low sodium group, and he has a recipe for corned beef. Corning beef.
Oh, is it the guy
salty.
You were telling me about with the corned beef?
It's salty. Yeah. It's like, look at the label on some corned beef.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 1,000 milligrams a slice.
I mean,
It's insane. And I used to salt it. I'd make corned beef and cabbage, and then I'd salt the corned beef and cabbage, and it's like there's 10,000 milligrams of sodium on a plate.
Yeah.
But he did. He actually, because it's like a 7-day process. It's a lot. And even when you go to like a Katz's Deli or something like that, if they make their own corned beef, it's you brine it and then rinse it and then move it to another bucket, and you brine it and rinse it and brine it, and you keep doing that for days, depending on the recipe. So it takes a long time. But he had formulated a lower sodium, which makes it possible, because that is my favorite meal. Every year on my birthday, even though it's not at St. Patty's Day, I'd make corned beef and cabbage. I just love corned beef and cabbage. I love boiled dinner. I'm Irish. What can I say?
Hey, there you go.
So, but yes, it's, I would wholeheartedly think that the reason why Mitch lived and did as well as he did for as long as he did is because of low sodium and because of Sue. I would say that she was a huge part of keeping his stress and his life better. Throughout all of that. But that's the thing, is when you have to be aware or be present in your own health. And I wish that as a society, we put more emphasis on health for our younger generations. The amount of, especially now with this whole pandemic thing, because everybody being home, the amount of people who have put on significant amounts of weight. And I get it. It's harder to be accountable to yourself.
Well, yeah.
It's easy when you have to go out in public, in that internal stress, in that internal damnation of, this guy or this girl is going to think I'm fat or ugly or whatever, and and those are all stupid reasons for you to be healthy. You should be healthy because you want to be healthy.
Well, I will tell you, I found some motivation this last weekend, because there's no way I can do another Music Fest portion of that.
Right.
Carrying around as much as I've got to carry around. Not going to happen.
Right.
So, and I did actually I have no idea how much I weigh. I don't weigh myself. I don't stand on a scale ever.
The only reason I weigh myself is because I have to weigh myself and my blood pressure.
I did move my belt to another notch.
Oh, nice.
Another notch in since this last weekend.
Mine went in the opposite direction.
But then again, I always lose weight from, here down, where I don't carry it anyway.
Right.
Like I carry no weight from the waist down. So I don't know why that always goes away first, but there you go.
That's how it always is. It's the part that you don't want to get better that gets better. It's like if I start to lose weight, I'm going to lose it in my boobs instead of everywhere else. Like, why can't I keep those and get rid of all the other bits like this? But that's just how it goes. But the ability to put yourself before all else is not easy. It's really not. And you'll find a million excuses of why you don't need to do that. I don't need to get out of bed. I don't need to exercise. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. And you really do need to take a check on your mental health and wellness, because it really does, just the perspective of how you see things and how you see your life affects all of that, affects how you sleep, affects how much you weigh. So if you can find little things to make you a little bit happier and relieve those stresses a little bit, it's significant. It makes a huge, huge difference in your overall well-being. And if you combine that with making a couple healthier options, those two things are alone could get you where you want to be. So I always say it, that it's the biggest compliment. I had someone reach out to me a couple weeks ago and said that they lost 35 pounds, not because they went on a diet, not because they started to exercise. They did what I suggested. So they started reading labels so they would make healthier option choices. And making like their own salad dressing. So they'd still buy a salad kit, but instead of using the salad dressing that was in the salad kit with added sugars and salts and all this other stuff, they would make their own salad dressing, or one of mine that I have, and still use the kit with all of the stuff in it. Because you can buy like the whatever kale salad kits with craisins and all sorts of stuff in it. And you open the bag, you dump it out, you pour the pre-made packet of stuff in it, and you have whatever beautiful salad. And then she was active 8 times a day. Like literally, she would walk for 4 minutes, turn around and come home. And that's it. Not an hour workout or whatever. Literally that 4-minute stretch and then turn around, come back. And doing that alone, she lost a lot of weight. She feels better. Her blood pressure dropped. And that's it. She still eats what she wants, same as I do. But if she's going to eat pizza, it's not a frozen pizza. It's from a place that uses real ingredients and makes their own pizzas, which you can find all over the place. I don't care where you live. No. If you want a burger, you go to a place that makes their, like, it's, you know what I mean? It's not, yes, you're still going to get a processed bun because it's not common for places to have a homemade bakery bun.
Yeah.
They're there, but usually it's places like where we live, where you're a little bit closer to a large city or something of that nature.
Yeah.
But you can still do all those things. You can still go out to eat. You can still have fun. You can still, like me, you can still go have your ice cream. So I just moved my ice cream time up. So I eat it closer to dinner than at 8:30 at night when I shouldn't be having a sugar bomb.
Yeah.
So it makes a huge difference. It's, it's the same with my coffee. I stopped for a while. I still have creamer at home, but I stopped getting sweetened coffee. So it's just espresso now.
And actually,
you always have black coffee.
Always. In fact, my wife did get some half and half, that's good. I like half and half in my coffee, or even like real whipping cream in my coffee. I don't mind it.
I like the heavy cream.
Yeah, but I never put anything in. I just like the taste of the coffee.
Right.
But one thing that I have done just very recently is I have greatly limited the amount of Hostess treats that I put in my lunch bag. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing in there today. And like last night I did have some ice cream on top of Mega Stuff Oreos, but only had 3 of those.
Right.
Wherein usually an entire sleeve
is gone
before
you blink.
Yeah. So, Yeah, well, you still ate mega stuffed Oreos. Well, yeah, I did because they're good, but I
Mhm.
didn't eat an entire sleeve. And for me, that's a big change.
Right.
So I say will, as if there are multiple people living in my head. I've been tested. There are not.
I was going to say, I got
So-
about 6 or 7 up there.
So I've been told that I'm the only one living in my head. So, but at any rate, I'll see how it keeps going. So,
And we talked about this a little bit on the last show where someone had made a comment that, low sodium is not evil and you need salt. I know you need salt.
yeah.
You need salt, you need potassium, you need magnesium, you need all of those things. You need iodine. You need all of them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even though you need them, too much of any of them can kill you. Like potassium chloride is the last thing that they put in your vein for capital punishment.
Yeah.
So you still need it to live, but it can still put you out for good. So that balance is key. And the two biggest things, and this still boggles my mind, the top 2 diets that are prescribed across the board, across the globe, for everybody is low sodium and sugar.
Yeah.
Those 2 things, and those are the 2 things, especially here in the States, that as a society, we consume the most of.
Yeah. Salt and sugar.
Right.
Nonstop.
And it doesn't mean that you can't have either. And even with sugar, when I find things that I want to have, so if I want to have a treat or I want to have a sweet something or I want to have whatever, I look at the added sugar. Like, where does it come from? Is it high in sugar simply because it's got fruits or vegetables or something in it that make it sweet? Or is it high in sugar because they added sugar? Because what people don't realize is to get like a can of pop to the level of sweetness that it is, it's an insane amount of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about a teaspoon or 2 of sugar, it's less than 10 grams. It's a few grams of sugar. So when you have 25, 35, 45 grams of sugar, you're talking cups of sugar. So if you take a cup of sugar and dilute it in some water and put some caramel coloring in it and maybe some anise or something, you might have a root beer.
Yeah. Enjoy.
It is really, really laden with sugar. So it's not that you can't have it. Even with Julienne's frozen custard that I love so much, they have sugar-free options. I haven't done a whole lot of research on all of the sugar-free options because I won't eat anything with aspartame.
Aspartame is really bad.
It's really bad for you.
Saccharin, sucralose, high
The
fructose.
new ones I don't know a whole lot about. The stevias and the whatevers that are still natural leaves.
They're the processing,
right.
Unfortunately, can. I wound up with blood allergies to artificial sweeteners, and it was like really bad for like quite a while.
And they're in everything.
And they're in everything because there's even the high fructose corn syrup, and you try to find something without that in it. It's really hard.
Right.
But they're in the heating process. It creates a chemical. And in some people, that takes that chemical and your body turns that into a neurotoxin, which mine happens to do.
Yep.
And it's not a pleasant experience. So it's now at this point, I don't have to watch it near like I used to. My body learned to deal with it, and I'm pretty good.
Right.
So I can sit down and eat a Twinkie and eat a Ding Dong or a Suzy Q. When I say that, it's a. Mm-hmm. It's no longer, I can't.
It's no longer a case.
I can't eat a case of them.
Yes.
I can't eat a box of them. I can eat one and I'm good. But I have to say, okay, I'm done at one. And it's hard to eat just one Twinkie for me. It is. Because I like the box.
I'm not going to say I don't eat
it. But it's, you have to just watch watch the amount of things that you eat. And, then.
It's the same, I've discovered, and I will say, I wish other people had the ambition to try what I do. Because I've said it a million times that you don't know how bad you feel until you feel better. And so now that I have balance, nutritionally and balance. I have plenty of stressors in my life. I'm a very busy person. I have a lot more going on than I probably should have going on, especially with the amount of physical ailments that I have. But it doesn't stress me out. And I have balance in my life. And those things have afforded me many, many luxuries. So for somebody who's got a very serious chronic illness, and it's very easy for people to forget that I'm sick. And it kind of stinks sometimes for I think I did a show once, Invisible Illness.
You did.
In the beginning.
Yep.
Because people look at me and they're like, oh, you're not sick, or you're better, or they did whatever, your liver regrew. No, it didn't, and it can't. I mean, your liver can regrow, but once it has cirrhosis, it can't. It's that scar tissue can't be replaced. So, but now, when it comes to low sodium, I can have salt. And salt per se doesn't necessarily affect my liver. What it affects is the water retention in my body. So your liver and your kidneys regulate so many things in your body, your hormones and everything else, including water retention and the signals for water retention and so on and so forth. So if your regulatory system is impaired, I retain water faster than others because of that. And then on top of it, because my liver can't filter things as fast as it's supposed to, like anybody else, I also have to be mindful. So when I get too much water, then it starts to put stress on my liver, my kidneys, my heart, and all of those things. So it adds a whole new host of problems on top of what I already have. So I can have salt. Some people are just sodium sensitive. Some people look at a restaurant and swell up 60. I have one of my girlfriends, as a matter of fact, I was joking that she was going to swell into a balloon because we literally sat down at the bar and I talked about ordering cheese curds.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not going to be able to fit in my pants later. Some people are just sodium sensitive. That's just how they are.
Yeah.
Genetically. I'm not. So now that I'm balanced, my liver can actually do what it's supposed to do. The things that it can't handle are fake processed stuff, like colored ingredients and processed stuff. Or like the other day when I have that chemical rush. So I can't get stressed. I'm the kind of person who will stand my ground, and I can't do that anymore. I have to step away, because if I get upset or angry or start to elevate that stress level and that cortisol, it starts to cause problems for me. So on top of being able to let things go before, once I had the nerve damage happen, I learned that I really do have to find that zen in me and walk away. Because if I start to get heated, even if it's a friendly debate,
no,
I can't. The level of physical discomfort that I feel from that rush is horrible, and it lasts for days.
Oy.
The problem is you and everybody else have that same thing. You have that same rush from stress, but you've been riding that roller coaster for so long, you don't notice it anymore.
Yeah.
But once you start relieving that stress and finding a way to deal with it and finding the root of those stressors, just that alone will help you lose weight, be more balanced, and be healthier. So something stupid like Pilates or yoga, even once a week, can be a huge help for a lot of people. Or even just meditation. Look it up online, do it at home. Sit in your living room and try to figure out how to meditate, because it is very, very therapeutic.
I've tried it. I fall asleep.
Hey, man.
But then sleep and I don't.
That just tells you
anyway.
that you're not getting enough sleep.
I don't, but.
See, we got to fix you, Pete. Well, I want to say you fix you because you're not broken.
No,
you're
I'm good.
Fine.
I'm good. All right, we're down to 1 minute. How do they find you?
They can find me on mylosolifestyle.com, 216thenet.com. And then, of course, we both have YouTube pages. Please subscribe to our YouTube page. The more subscribers we have, the more luxuries we have. I also have started, you can find it on my Facebook, or on my Facebook page and on my website, Started uploading all of my episodes to podcast. For those of you that are podcast lovers, I'm on Podbean. And yeah, I mean, all of it. Facebook, YouTube. Did I get them all? Oh, and I finally figured out my email. Mary@MyLoSoLifestyle.com. Took me 2 years of having a website. There was something rerouted wrong on my server, so I could send emails, but I wasn't getting any of them back. So I finally figured out what it was. So that's been my email all along. And that's what happens when you do your own technical support.
Well, all right, there you go. Well, until next week.
Oh no!
Not next week.
We are off next week.
Yeah,
we have some conflicting stuff next week, so we'll see you in the following week. We're taking 1 week off.
1 week off. So tune in for a best of show next week. We'll see you next time. There we go.
That's funny.